Hello everyone, welcome back to the Undercut and welcome to our predictions for the Brazilian Grand Prix weekend. It's another sprint weekend, Jack. What do we think?
I'm excited. I'm always excited for Brazil. It throws up some craziness at some point. Obviously, sprint weekend, we remember Hamilton coming through back in 2021. Obviously, Hamilton and Albon hitting each other. Obviously, There's rumours that it's going to be wet on Sunday for the race. It's going to be a good weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a good weekend. Obviously, speaking of 2021, we had that titanic, maybe controversial battle between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton as well. We had that moment between Max and Lewis as well in 2022.
Yeah.
There's been many big moments happening here. George Russell, of course, winning as well here a few years ago as well. So it's a track that does give us maybe a bit of unpredictability.
Yes, it's quite a tricky track, really, as well. I mean, the corners, the high speed, the low speed, it's a bit of everything, and it's just a track that promotes good racing.
Absolutely. It's very, very unpredictable. But either way, let's get straight into this, shall we?
Yes.
Obviously, of course, we're predicting the sprint as well. So, starting straight off, who is your sprint pole position?
Charles Leclerc.
Ooh, Leclerc! Why?
Why have you said it like that?
Leclerc!
Leclerc.
Why Charles Leclerc?
No, I think Ferrari on a great run of form at the moment. I think Charles is on a great run of form. Obviously, I know Carlos Sainz dominated Mexico, but really since Monza, maybe even the Netherlands, you would say Charles Leclerc has been the form driver.
Yeah, of anyone. Yeah, 100%.
Of pretty much everyone. So, obviously, only finishing off the podium in Singapore.
Yeah.
Since Belgium, if I'm right in thinking.
He was on the podium in Belgium as well.
He was on the podium in Belgium, so including Belgium. So since Belgium, only Singapore he's been off the podium until this point. So, yeah, I've gone for Charles Leclerc on a sprint pole. I think Ferrari have got that car in a beautiful sweet spot. I think they're ready every weekend that comes across them. And, yeah.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. I've kind of gone for... I've took inspiration from Texas. My sprint pole position is Max Verstappen.
Okay.
Not just because I believe Max, you throw all the drivers into an unpredictable session. You don't give them much practice. Of course, Max, you put your money on Max even in even a slower car to put it on pole because he's just so naturally gifted at extracting pace out of a car. But that's not purely my reason. Max Verstappen is, I think Red Bull will be quicker around here than they were in Mexico. Just because I'm thinking about that, the Mexico second sector, the twisty section, the S's, they were quick through there in Austin as well. There's a lot of sort of twisty, fast-paced S's, corners like that in Brazil. You think of the Senna S's, you think then of turn 4, you then think up the hill and then turn 5 as well. That's also a big swooping right-hander. There's a lot of corners that could suit this Red Bull. There's not a lot of bumps around this track either. I'm thinking possibly it might just be lined up for Max to get in there and take pole position in the sprint, I think.
Possibly. I mean, I see Brazil as either a track that will favour the Red Bull or a track that won't. Obviously, the high speed, you're looking at it in terms of, the Red Bull was really good in Mexico and in Austin. I think the Ferraris were both good in Mexico and Austin through that middle sector as well. So, you're looking at that, but you've also got the slow speed, slow entry, fast exit out corners as well. You've got your long straights. So Brazil's not just a high speed. So I don't know. For some reason, the Red Bull will either be brilliant around here or it will be like Mexico.
No in between.
Yeah, it's going to be one or the other with Red Bull this week. And I think it's going to be more towards the bad end.
See, I disagree. I think it's going to be towards the good end, but that's why this is interesting because we will find out which one it will be.
Yeah.
But moving on then, so who have you got as your sprint race winner?
Winner? We're not doing top 3?
Oh, we can do top 3 if you want.
I mean, we can do top 3.
Let's go then. Come on then. Top
Do you
3
want
for the
third?
sprint. Go on.
Would you like third first then?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Who's your third place?
Lando Norris
Okay,
is
Lando.
my third place. I mean, I think it's just going to be quite a close weekend, really, between the teams again.
Yeah.
Every weekend we say it's going to be close because it is going to be close. I think Brazil's an unpredictable track where you've got to get your setup right. And if you get your setup right, you've got a huge chance of winning if your car, like these 4 teams, are actually quite close. So I think any of the top 8 could be on the podium this week. Well, top 7 could be on the podium this weekend.
Yeah.
Not Sergio Perez. So I want Lando Norris third.
For third place in the sprint, I'm going to go with Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of similar to my reasoning with Max. Lewis obviously goes really well around here. He knows this
unbelievably well around.
Unbelievably well. That Mercedes, I don't think will have the pace of the other 3 teams, but I think because of the lack of practice and drivers potentially relying more on extracting pace themselves, trying to extract a little bit something when the session's unpredictable. I think Hamilton is the perfect candidate to assume to do that around here, maybe other than Max. So yeah, I've gone with Hamilton in third. I think he'll be able to salvage something from this sprint race.
Yeah, I went with Hamilton second.
Okay, same reason.
Pretty much the same reason. Yeah, Hamilton track record around Brazil is phenomenal.
Yeah.
If there's a track you think Lewis Hamilton, you think Silverstone, and you think Interlagos.
Yep, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. In second place, I've gone with Charles Leclerc. I think Ferrari will have pace, and I think he'll go well and finish on the podium.
I went first with Charles Leclerc.
Okay.
Obviously, I think Ferrari will start the weekend brilliantly. I think Charles will, and I think Ferrari, again, will carry on their pace.
Fair enough. In first place, I've gone with Max Verstappen converting the win. I think it'll be a bit easier for Max to keep the lead in the sprint and win the race. I do think he will start on pole, and if he starts on pole, I think he'll win. Similar to Texas. It might not be the same for the race, and we'll obviously talk about that in just a moment. But I think he'll win. Let's move on then to the actual race. In qualifying, Who is your pole position?
I went with Lewis Hamilton.
Lewis Hamilton?
Yes, I've gone with Lewis Hamilton on pole. I think Mercedes will be closer than what they were in Mexico and what they were in Texas. I think they're getting an understanding of this new floor now. And I think they'll be able to extract the pace and set the car up well. I think Mercedes, most times, obviously, other than last season, most times, get it pretty spot on around Brazil. Obviously, we saw 2022, that dog shit year, that dog shit car, came home with a 1-2.
Yeah, they did. They did.
So Mercedes know Brazil. Hamilton knows Brazil. And I think they'll look at the sprint qualifying, they'll look at the sprint race, they'll do that, they'll make tweaks to the car, and I think they'll come out and they'll just be as fast, if not faster, than a Ferrari, than the McLaren.
Wow, that's a very, very bold statement. For pole, I have actually once again gone Max Verstappen. I think Red Bull will be at the front. Not at the front, but I think Max will be able to extract. I think it'll be close, but I think he'll be able to extract another pole. I think this session will be a lot closer than the sprint. I think Max maybe a 10th or 2 in the sprint. I think this is going to be
a 10th or 2 in the sprint's massive around Brazil.
I think he will. I think genuinely in the sprint, I think we could see a 10th over the second place on pole.
I could get 2 tenths. No.
In the normal qualifying, it will be closer. I think it's definitely under, maybe even half a tenth potentially, in the actual qualifying. But I do think he'll stick it on pole again, Max Verstappen. I've just got this feeling.
Yeah.
Max does go well around Brazil, and I mean, it goes well around. It goes well everywhere. But I just think he's gonna do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Who's your third place in the actual race?
Third, Charles Leclerc.
Okay, Charles.
Obviously, latest rumor is we will get rain.
Yep.
I'm taking rain into account here because it's quite a high probability at this point in time.
Yep.
So I went with Charles Leclerc again. I just think it's going to be close, and to come up with the top three is really difficult with the 7 drivers to choose from. And I went with Charles on form, really, and his ability in the sprint.
Fair enough. Can't complain with that. Third, I've gone with Carlos Sainz. I do think Ferrari will have pace.
Yeah.
I predicted him a podium last weekend, but he completely blew the expectations out of the water and friggin' won the race. So
yeah,
fair enough to Carlos. But yeah, I think it'll be Ferrari will have pace. And I think Carlos will come home with a podium for Ferrari.
Yeah. Okay.
Second?
Yeah. Second, I went with Lando Norris.
Big Lando.
Yeah, I went with Lando Norris. Again, I think McLaren will look at the sprint, make a few tweaks. I think Lando will be on the pace. And I think Lando knows how crucial it is to be on the pace. And what we saw last weekend in Mexico was his consistency. He's able to look after his tyres, which is a huge point in Brazil. So I think that McLaren being kind of on its tyres during the actual race will come in dividends as well.
Fair enough, yeah. I mean, he's got to be on the podium at the very least, hasn't he?
Yes, he does.
This weekend. There's nothing else, he can't be off the podium.
No.
For second, I've gone with Max Verstappen. I don't think he'll convert the win. I think Ferrari have too much pace, and that maybe is a little bit of a spoiler I think is going to win the Brazilian Grand Prix, but I think Ferrari have too much race pace at this point. Because we saw in qualifying, Ferrari were challenged by McLaren and Red Bull, and even at points Mercedes in Austin.
They were.
But in the race, Ferrari, the last 2 races have just been absolutely ridiculous with their race
They
pace.
look good.
It's been unbelievably quick. I mean, Max even finished 60 seconds. I mean, obviously, granted, he had a 20-second penalty, but still 60 seconds behind Carlos Sainz in Mexico. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've gone with Max in second.
Yeah.
Who's your first place? Who's going to win the Brazilian Grand Prix?
My winner is Lewis Hamilton.
Oh, bloody hell. I saw that one coming.
Yes. I've gone with Lewis Hamilton. As I said, I think Mercedes will be thereabouts on pace. Rain is coming in, and when you mix Brazil, where Lewis is brilliant, rain where Lewis is brilliant, there's only one winner.
No, that's fair enough. I can't argue with that. I can't argue. Yeah, that's fair. Lewis Hamilton is.
If it was a dry race, if it was confirmed it was 100% going to be a dry race, would I choose Lewis Hamilton? I don't know, but because the threat of rain is there and it is a high probability at this current point in time, I've gone with Lewis Hamilton.
Fair enough. I mean, I hope you're right. I do. I'd love to see Lewis win another race with Mercedes before, obviously, he eventually departs in a few races' time for the Scarlet Ferrari. But yeah, and it'd be nice to do it around Brazil. Doesn't Lewis Hamilton have a Brazilian fucking?
Yes, he is
Brazilian citizenship.
Citizen. He is.
That's crazy.
It's his second home race.
So it's technically a home race for Lewis.
It is, and I would imagine he's got a Brazilian tribute helmet. I mean, he is. I think the latest, well, what I've read is he'll be driving Senna's McLaren on Saturday in between the sprint race and qualifying.
I want to see that. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. But yeah, I mean, Lewis loves this place. Anyway, yeah, in first place, I've obviously gone with Charles Leclerc. Maybe it's a bit boring. Maybe it's a bit on the nose after what we saw in Texas and Mexico. But Ferrari in the race, their race pace is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Over a full race distance, bringing in pit stop. And the thing is, it's interesting as well because like we've seen it in Texas and we saw it in Mexico when the pit stops come in and they go to the hard tire. Ferrari, for some reason, on the hard tire, or just for some reason, have so much more pace than the Red Bulls and the McLarens and the Mercedes.
They do.
I don't know what's going on, but their race pace is ridiculous, and that
Every
other team seems to be a bit
really
more.
good.
It's good. The other teams, other teams seem to be a little bit more inconsistent with their pace on different tire compounds and the grip that they get. Ferrari just seem to be sort of quick everywhere on each compound, on each stint, and I don't know. It's ridiculous. But yeah, Charles Leclerc is my winner. Let's move on to flop of the weekend. Who's going to stink out the gaff, Jack? Who's going to be really bad this weekend?
I went with George Russell.
Oh, poor Jorginho. Why?
Well, it's not really he's going to stink the place out. I think it's more to do with what his teammates going to do compared to him.
So you mean Hamilton wins, he's like 5th?
Well, I think Hamilton wins, and I think George is down in maybe behind. Because I've got Leclerc third, Norris second, and you've got Sainz in there, you've got Piastri in there, you've got Max. You could see George down in 7th.
Yeah, that's fair.
And if Hamilton's winning George 7th, it's not great, and that's probably a clue as to who's going to be my star.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think if the Mercedes has the pace for Hamilton to win, I definitely don't think George is 7th. That's but fair enough. We'll see, because Hamilton and Russell are very, very equal on pace.
You would think so, wouldn't you? But as we know, rain can throw up anything.
Rain can. That is true in Formula One. I mean, rain is the, rain is that one thing that if Perez is to get a podium this year, I think it's going to have to monsoon and a few of them are going to have to go off the track.
Bottas that's the type of for podium.
Yeah, Bottas for a podium. So for my flop of the weekend, I have gone with McLaren as a team. I think McLaren aren't going to be... What?
You always go with teams.
I do. I just feel like McLaren as a whole are going to be slower than they have been. And obviously we've got the Oscar redemption arc coming. We've got, Lando with the expectation to finish on the podium at the very least in front of Max. I just think a bunch of things are built up this weekend. I think Ferrari is going to be on pace. I think Max will definitely be on pace and Red Bull will be a bit quicker. And like you've alluded to a lot in your predictions, Mercedes are going to be a bit quicker. I do think there will be points where Hamilton and even Russell, I think, are closer. So with all that in mind, maybe McLaren don't even finish on the podium. And if they don't, I think that's stinky.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe.
Who's your star of the weekend? Who will impress you the most?
Lewis Hamilton.
Obviously.
I mean, if he wins, gets podium in the sprint, they're thereabouts in both qualifying, getting pole in one of them. How could I not give it to him from my predictions?
Yeah, it can't be anyone else, can it?
Not from my predictions, no. Like, I do think Haas will have another major weekend, though, so I was tempted to put Haas again.
That's fair enough, and actually, funny enough, my star of the weekend is Kevin Magnussen.
He's not going to have another one.
I believe.
He's running his luck already.
I believe in Kevin. He's had a few good races now, very good races. Haas look like they're in the form of the midfield, Formula B. Kevin, obviously, a few years back got pole round here in the sprint. So I just think, and don't get me wrong, and as well, by the way, this is not to discount Hülkenberg because Hülkenberg has been on pole round here as well. For those of you who remember, 2010, Nico Hülkenberg in the Williams put it on pole in the actual qualifying. So Hülkenberg, goes well around here as well. But Kevin Magnussen, I think will have a fantastic weekend. I think it'll be a Q3 appearance. I think he'll get points in the sprint, and I think he maybe will pick up a couple of points, possibly with his teammate as well, in the actual race. And I've gone with Kevin, so there you go.
Okay.
With that said, that is it for our predictions for the Brazilian Grand Prix weekend. Let us know your predictions in the comments below, like the video, and we will be live for the Friday sprint quali.